What if I told you that the key to unlocking your intimate potential wasn't in a pill or potion, but in the very mind you're using right now to watch this video? Before you click away thinking this is just another clickbait promise, let me share something that completely changed how I understood human performance. 2 years ago, I was researching performance psychology for athletes when I stumbled across a fascinating study that had nothing to do with sports. Dr. Meston and her colleagues at the University of Texas had been investigating something that affects millions of people worldwide, yet rarely gets discussed in scientific terms: the psychology of intimate endurance. What they discovered was so counterintuitive that it challenged everything I thought I knew about human performance. Picture this scenario for a moment. Meet James and Alex, 2 guys, same age, similar fitness levels, identical testosterone readings, and comparable relationship satisfaction scores. Yet when it comes to intimate stamina, their experiences couldn't be more different. James consistently enjoys extended, fulfilling encounters that leave both partners satisfied. Alex, despite being physically identical in every measurable way, struggles with premature endings that leave him frustrated and his confidence shattered. What's the difference? It's not what you'd expect. The answer lies in something researchers call cognitive interference. Essentially, the conversation happening in your head during intimate moments. While James's mind is present and engaged, Alex's is running a constant commentary of worry, performance monitoring, and catastrophic predictions. This isn't just psychological fluff. Brain imaging studies show that when we're anxious about performance, our prefrontal cortex literally hijacks resources from the parts of our brain responsible for physical sensation and control. Here's where it gets really interesting. That nagging voice in your head isn't just annoying, it's physiologically sabotaging your performance. When anxiety kicks in, your sympathetic nervous system floods your body with stress hormones. Your heart rate spikes, your breathing becomes shallow, and blood flow gets redirected away from, well, the areas where you need it most. It's like trying to run a marathon while your body thinks you're being chased by a tiger. Have you ever wondered why sometimes you feel like you can go all night, while other times you're done before you've even begun? The answer isn't random luck or mysterious biological fluctuations. It's your psychological state creating a cascade of physical responses that either work for you or against you. This revelation completely shattered one of the most persistent myths about stamina, that it's purely a physical trait like height or eye color. The truth is far more empowering. Stamina is a psychological skill that can be developed, refined, and mastered. Think about that for a moment. If stamina were purely physical, we'd all be stuck with whatever genetic lottery ticket we drew. But if it's psychological, that means it's learnable. Society has fed us countless myths about sexual performance, most of which focus on physical solutions to what is fundamentally a mental challenge. We've been conditioned to believe that bigger, stronger, or longer lasting automatically means better. But research from the Kinsey Institute reveals something surprising. The majority of highly satisfying intimate encounters aren't characterized by marathon duration, but by psychological presence and connection. Now, I know what you might be thinking. If it's all psychological, why can't I just think my way to better performance? That's like asking why you can't just think your way to playing piano like Mozart. Psychological skills require understanding, practice, and the right techniques. That's where the science gets exciting. There are 3 fundamental pillars that determine psychological stamina, and understanding them is like having a roadmap to your own potential. First is mindset, not positive thinking fluff, but actual cognitive strategies that redirect your mental resources toward sensation and connection rather than performance monitoring. Second is technique, specific psychological methods that work with your nervous system rather than against it. And third is connection, the often overlooked element that transforms a purely physical act into something far more powerful and sustainable. Here's a statistic that might surprise you. According to research published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, nearly 70% of men report experiencing performance anxiety at some point in their lives. But here's the kicker: the anxiety often creates the very problem it fears. It's a psychological phenomenon called a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the fear of poor performance actually causes poor performance, which reinforces the fear, creating a vicious cycle. But what if I told you that this same psychological mechanism can work in your favor? Just as anxiety can sabotage performance, the right psychological state can enhance it beyond what you thought possible. Elite athletes have known this secret for decades. They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds to enter optimal performance states on command. The most fascinating part: this isn't some esoteric mind trick available only to a select few. It's based on well-documented psychological principles that anyone can learn and apply. We're talking about the same mental strategies that help Navy SEALs maintain composure under extreme pressure, that allow surgeons to perform delicate operations for hours without losing focus, and that enable professional athletes to perform consistently at the highest levels. But here's where the plot thickens. If stamina is indeed psychological, we must first understand the science behind how our minds influence our physical performance. What exactly happens in your brain and body when psychology takes the wheel? How do thoughts become physical sensations? And most importantly, how can you harness this mind-body connection to unlock capabilities you never knew you had? But what does the science actually say about how our thoughts and emotions directly impact our physical endurance in intimate moments? The research that's about to unfold will challenge everything you think you know about human performance and reveal why your most powerful asset has been hiding in plain sight all along. What you're about to hear might completely change how you think about stamina forever. Remember those two guys I mentioned, James and Alex? Well, researchers at Johns Hopkins decided to peek inside their brains during intimate moments using advanced neuroimaging technology. What they discovered was like finding a hidden control room that most people never knew existed. Picture your brain as a sophisticated theater with two competing directors. In one corner, you have what scientists call the excitation system. Think of it as an enthusiastic director shouting more, faster, don't stop. This system is governed by dopamine, the neurotransmitter that makes everything feel incredibly good and drives you toward climax. In the other corner sits the inhibition system, the calm, measured director saying, slow down, let's make this last. This system relies heavily on serotonin, which acts like a natural brake pedal for arousal. Here's where it gets fascinating. Masters and Johnson, the pioneering researchers who literally wrote the book on human sexual response, discovered something remarkable in their groundbreaking studies. They found that individuals with better stamina weren't necessarily less aroused. They were simply better at managing the conversation between these two neural directors. It's like having a skilled conductor orchestrating a complex symphony instead of letting the musicians play however they want. But wait, there's more to this neurological orchestra. Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman revolutionized psychology with his research on how we think, and his findings apply directly to intimate performance. He identified two distinct thinking systems in our brains. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It's what makes you feel aroused in the first place. System 2 is slow, deliberate, and rational. It's what could help you maintain control if you knew how to access it. Here's the problem most people face. During intimate moments, System 1 takes over completely. Your automatic responses flood your consciousness with sensation and urgency, while your rational, controlling System 2 gets pushed to the background. It's like trying to have a thoughtful conversation while a marching band is playing in your head. The key insight: learning to keep System 2 engaged without killing the magic of System 1. Now, let me share something that sounds almost too incredible to be true. Researchers at UCLA used functional MRI scans to observe what happens in the brains of men with excellent stamina versus those who struggle with premature ejaculation. The difference wasn't in their arousal centers. Both groups showed similar activation in regions associated with pleasure and excitement. The difference was in their prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive control center. Think of your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your brain. In men with better control, this region stayed actively engaged during intimate moments, maintaining communication with other brain areas and modulating the intensity of sexual response. In those who struggled, the prefrontal cortex essentially went offline, leaving the automatic systems to run the show without any executive oversight. It's like the difference between having a skilled pilot flying a plane versus letting autopilot handle a storm. But here's where the science gets really wild. Remember how I mentioned anxiety sabotages performance? Researchers at the University of British Columbia conducted a fascinating psychology experiment where they monitored stress hormone levels during intimate encounters. What they found was counterintuitive and game-changing. Men who reported the highest anxiety about their stamina showed elevated cortisol and adrenaline levels, classic stress response markers. But here's the kicker. These stress hormones didn't just make them feel anxious, they literally rewired their nervous system in real time. The sympathetic nervous system, designed to help us fight or flee from danger, took control and began prioritizing rapid completion over prolonged enjoyment. Your body, in its infinite wisdom, was essentially saying, "This feels dangerous, let's finish quickly and get out of here." This creates what researchers call the spectator effect, a phenomenon so common yet so misunderstood that it deserves its own psychological disorder category. Picture this. You're in an intimate moment, but instead of being fully present in the experience, part of your mind steps back and starts observing and evaluating your performance. How am I doing? Am I lasting long enough? What does my partner think? You become a spectator at your own intimate experience. The irony is brutal. The more you mentally step back to monitor your performance, the less control you actually have. It's like trying to fall asleep by constantly checking if you're falling asleep. The very act of monitoring prevents the natural process from occurring. Studies show that men who engage in this spectatoring behavior are 3 times more likely to experience premature ejaculation than those who stay mentally present. But here's what makes this research so exciting rather than depressing. If anxiety and mental detachment can sabotage your performance, then the opposite must also be true. Calm presence and mental engagement should enhance it. And that's exactly what the data shows. Dr. Barry Komisaruk's groundbreaking neuroresearch at Rutgers University revealed something extraordinary. When people achieved states of calm, focused attention during intimate moments, what he calls mindful arousal, their brain scans showed increased activity in regions associated with both pleasure and self-regulation. They weren't just feeling more, they were feeling more while maintaining better control. The neurotransmitter dance becomes even more interesting when you understand how thoughts directly influence brain chemistry. Anxious thoughts trigger the release of norepinephrine, which speeds up arousal and reduces control. But calm, present-moment awareness increases GABA production, which has a naturally calming effect on the nervous system. It's like having a pharmacy in your head, and your thoughts are writing the prescriptions. Perhaps most remarkably, researchers found that this isn't just about individual psychology, it's about interpersonal neuroscience. When partners feel connected and present with each other, their nervous systems literally synchronize. Heart rates align, breathing patterns match, and stress hormones decrease in both individuals. It's as if intimate connection creates a shared neurological state that enhances performance for everyone involved. Now that we understand the science of how our minds control our bodies, the question becomes, how can we actually train our minds for better control? If your prefrontal cortex can be strengthened like a muscle, if your neurotransmitter balance can be optimized through mental techniques, and if your nervous system can be trained to stay calm under the most intense circumstances, then what specific strategies can turn this knowledge into real-world results? Imagine 2 identical twins with identical physical capabilities who approach intimacy with completely different mental frameworks. Twin A steps into intimate moments carrying a backpack full of worries. Will I last long enough? What if I disappoint my partner? What if it happens too quickly again? Twin B approaches the same situation with curiosity and presence. How amazing does this feel? What sensations am I experiencing right now? How connected do we feel together? Same DNA, same body, same partner, but radically different outcomes. Twin A struggles with premature ejaculation and growing anxiety, while Twin B enjoys extended, satisfying encounters that leave both partners fulfilled. The difference isn't physical, it's purely psychological. And here's the empowering truth. You get to choose which twin you want to be. Let me tell you about Marcus, a 32-year-old software engineer who volunteered for a fascinating psychology experiment at Stanford University. Marcus had struggled with stamina issues for years, despite being in excellent physical health. His story illustrates one of the most destructive psychological patterns researchers have identified: the spectator cycle. Picture this: Marcus would enter intimate moments already half-focused on monitoring his performance. Part of his attention was with his partner, but another part had stepped back into observation mode, constantly evaluating. How aroused am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Am I getting too close to the point of no return? How much time has passed? He had become a spectator at his own intimate experience, and spectators don't have control, they just watch things happen. Dr. Helen Singer Kaplan's research revealed something crucial about this spectator phenomenon. When you split your attention between experiencing pleasure and monitoring performance, your prefrontal cortex, that CEO we talked about earlier, gets overwhelmed trying to do two jobs simultaneously. It's like trying to drive while constantly staring at the speedometer instead of the road. The result? You lose control of both, but here's where Marcus's story gets interesting. Researchers introduced him to what I call the what-if mind hack, a simple cognitive reframing technique that transforms anxiety into fuel for better performance. Instead of viewing his arousal as a threat to monitor and control, Marcus learned to reframe it as valuable information to embrace and redirect. The technique works like this. When you notice that familiar feeling of rising arousal and the urge to panic, you immediately ask yourself, what if this intensity is exactly what I need to create an incredible experience? It's based on research showing that physiological arousal and anxiety create nearly identical sensations in your body: increased heart rate, heightened awareness, energized focus. The only difference is the story your mind tells about what those sensations mean. Think about it this way. A roller coaster and a car accident can produce identical physical sensations. Your heart pounds, adrenaline surges, your breathing quickens. But one experience is thrilling while the other is terrifying, purely because of the mental framework you bring to those sensations. The same principle applies to intimate arousal. The sensations aren't the problem, it's the story you tell yourself about what they mean. This connects to groundbreaking research by Dr. Kristen Neff at the University of Texas on self-compassion and performance anxiety. Her studies revealed something counterintuitive. People who treat themselves with kindness and understanding during challenging moments actually perform better than those who use harsh self-criticism as motivation. When Marcus learned to replace thoughts like, "I'm terrible at this," with "I'm learning and improving," his nervous system literally calmed down, allowing for better control. But the real breakthrough came when Marcus discovered mindfulness, not the mystical kind, but practical, research-backed present-moment awareness. Dr. Laurie Brato's clinical trials at the University of British Columbia showed that just 8 weeks of mindfulness practice improved sexual satisfaction and control in 85% of participants. The technique isn't complicated, but it requires understanding how your attention works. Let me share a simple exercise you can try right now, whether you're alone or with a partner. Close your eyes for a moment and focus entirely on the sensation of your breath entering and leaving your nostrils. Notice the temperature difference between the air coming in and going out. Feel the slight pause between inhaling and exhaling. Did you notice how, when you focused completely on these sensations, other thoughts quieted down? That's the power of mindful attention. It naturally reduces anxiety and keeps you present in your body. Now imagine applying that same focused attention during intimate moments. Instead of your mind racing with performance concerns, you're completely absorbed in the sensations you're experiencing, the connection with your partner, the pleasure of the present moment. This isn't just feel-good psychology. Brain imaging studies show that mindfulness literally strengthens the prefrontal cortex while calming the anxiety centers in your brain. Elite athletes have been using visualization techniques for decades to enhance performance, and recent research shows these same methods work remarkably well for intimate stamina. Dr. Robin Nin's work with Olympic athletes revealed that mental rehearsal creates neural pathways almost identical to actual physical practice. Your brain can't tell the difference between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. Here's how this applies to your situation. Spend 5 minutes each day visualizing yourself in intimate moments, feeling completely calm, present, and in control. See yourself noticing rising arousal and smoothly redirecting that energy. Picture yourself and your partner both completely satisfied and connected. This isn't wishful thinking, you're literally programming your nervous system for success. Marcus practiced this visualization technique for just 2 weeks before reporting dramatic improvements. But the most powerful shift happened when he stopped trying to last longer and started focusing on creating deeper pleasure and connection. This seemingly paradoxical approach, letting go of the goal to achieve the goal, is based on research showing that performance anxiety decreases when you shift from outcome-focused to process-focused thinking. The transformation stories don't stop with Marcus. Dr. Barry McCarthy's longitudinal study followed 200 men who implemented these mindset shifts over 6 months. The results were remarkable. 78% reported significant improvements in stamina, but even more importantly, 91% reported increased overall sexual satisfaction. They weren't just lasting longer, they were enjoying intimacy more deeply than ever before. Here's what makes this approach so powerful. You're not fighting against your natural responses or trying to suppress arousal. Instead, you're learning to work with your body's systems, using your mind as a sophisticated control interface rather than a source of interference. It's like upgrading from randomly pressing buttons to actually knowing how to operate the machine. While transforming your mindset is the first critical step, your body also needs specific training to respond differently to arousal. Just as your mind can be reprogrammed for better performance, your physical responses can be retrained through targeted techniques that work with your nervous system rather than against it. What if you could train your body for sexual stamina the same way athletes train for their sports? I know it sounds almost too straightforward, but bear with me because what I'm about to share will fundamentally change how you think about physical preparation for intimate performance. Meet Sarah Chen, a sports medicine researcher at UCLA who made an accidental discovery that revolutionized how we understand sexual stamina. She was studying pelvic floor rehabilitation in female athletes when she noticed something unexpected in her data. The women who had stronger, more coordinated pelvic floor muscles weren't just recovering better from sports injuries. They were also reporting dramatically improved sexual experiences, including better control and enhanced satisfaction. This wasn't a coincidence. Sarah's findings led to groundbreaking research revealing that sexual stamina operates on the same principles as athletic performance. Specific muscles can be trained, coordination can be improved, and endurance can be built through progressive exercise. Your body already has a sophisticated performance system, you just need to learn how to train it. Let's start with the star player in this system, your pelvic floor. Picture a hammock of muscles stretching from your pubic bone to your tailbone, supporting your pelvic organs and playing a crucial role in sexual function. These muscles are like a hidden control center that most people never consciously engage, yet they're responsible for everything from maintaining erection quality to controlling the timing of climax. Here's what's fascinating. Just like your biceps or your abs, these muscles respond to training. Dr. Grace Dory's research at the University of the West of England followed men who performed targeted pelvic floor exercises for 12 weeks. The results were remarkable. 75% showed significant improvement in stamina and control, while maintaining or even enhancing their pleasure and sensation. But here's the part that might surprise you. These aren't just squeeze and hold exercises your grandmother might have mentioned. Modern pelvic floor training is sophisticated, progressive, and incredibly effective when done correctly. Think of it as strength training for your most intimate muscles. Let me walk you through a simple exercise you can try right now. Whether you're watching this alone or in a crowded coffee shop, nobody will have any idea what you're doing. Imagine you're stopping the flow of urine midstream. Feel that gentle lifting sensation. That's your pelvic floor engaging. Now here's the key: don't just squeeze and hold. Start with a gentle contraction for 3 seconds, then relax for 3 seconds. It's not about maximum force, it's about control and coordination. What makes this training so powerful is something researchers call neuroplasticity, your nervous system's ability to create new pathways and improve coordination through practice. Dr. Antonio Pellicer's studies in Spain used electromagnetic imaging to show that men who practiced pelvic floor exercises literally rewired their neural control patterns, developing what he calls conscious muscular command over their sexual response. But pelvic floor strength is just one piece of the puzzle. Cardiovascular health plays a surprisingly crucial role in sexual stamina, and not just for the obvious reasons. Research published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine revealed that men with better cardiovascular fitness had significantly better stamina, but not because they were less likely to get physically tired during sex. The real connection is blood flow and nervous system regulation. When your cardiovascular system is well conditioned, your body becomes more efficient at managing arousal states. Your heart rate variability improves, meaning you can handle intense sensations without your nervous system immediately jumping to emergency mode. It's like having a more sensitive throttle control in your car. You can accelerate smoothly instead of just having full speed and brake. Here's a fascinating psychology experiment that demonstrates this connection. Researchers at Harvard had 2 groups of men perform the same intimate stamina test. One group had just completed 20 minutes of moderate cardiovascular exercise, while the other had been sedentary. The group that had exercised showed 40% better control and reported feeling more confident and relaxed throughout the experience. Exercise had literally primed their nervous systems for better performance. Now I know what you might be thinking. Do I need to become a marathon runner to improve my stamina? Absolutely not. The sweet spot seems to be moderate intensity exercise that improves circulation and nervous system regulation without exhausting you. We're talking about a 20-minute walk, some light resistance training, or even dancing. Anything that gets your blood flowing and your heart rate up without leaving you depleted. But here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Irwin Goldstein's research at Boston University Medical Center discovered that combining pelvic floor training with general fitness creates what he calls a synergistic effect. The men who did both showed improvements that were greater than the sum of their individual benefits. It's like the 2 types of training were amplifying each other's effects. There's also a specific type of resistance training that targets the muscles involved in sexual function. I'm talking about exercises that strengthen your core, improve hip flexibility, and enhance the coordination between your pelvic floor and your breathing. Squats, bridges, and planks aren't just great for your general fitness. They're directly training the muscle groups that support sexual performance. One of the most powerful exercises combines multiple elements. Lie on your back with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. As you lift your hips into a bridge position, simultaneously engage your pelvic floor muscles. Hold for 5 seconds while breathing normally, then lower down while relaxing those muscles. This single exercise trains strength, coordination, and the ability to maintain pelvic floor control while other muscles are working. Exactly what you need during intimate moments. The research consistently shows that consistency trumps intensity when it comes to these exercises. Doing 15 minutes of targeted training 3 times per week produces better results than occasional marathon sessions. Your pelvic floor muscles, like all muscles, adapt and strengthen through regular, progressive challenge rather than sporadic, intense effort. What's particularly encouraging about this physical approach is that the benefits compound over time. Dr. Dory's follow-up studies showed that men who maintained their exercise routine continued to see improvements for up to 2 years. Your body literally becomes more capable and responsive as these muscles develop better strength, endurance, and coordination. Here's something that might dispel a common myth. Strengthening these muscles doesn't reduce sensitivity or pleasure. In fact, research shows the opposite. Stronger pelvic floor muscles enhance sensation and pleasure while providing better control. It's like upgrading from a basic car stereo to a high-end sound system. You get both more power and more precision. While strengthening your pelvic floor muscles is incredibly important, there's another physical element that's just as crucial, one that connects your mind and body in powerful ways and can instantly transform your level of control: your breath. This isn't just about relaxation. It's about accessing a direct communication channel between your conscious mind and your autonomic nervous system. The most powerful tool you have for controlling your arousal isn't between your legs, it's between your ribs. I know that sounds like something a yoga instructor might say after too much green tea, but stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will give you instant access to a control system you've had your entire life without realizing it. Let me tell you about David, a 28-year-old paramedic who stumbled upon this discovery in the most unexpected way. David was struggling with stamina issues that were affecting his confidence and relationship. He'd tried the pelvic floor exercises we discussed, and they were helping, but he still felt like he was missing something crucial. Then one day, during a particularly stressful emergency call, David noticed something remarkable about his breathing. When adrenaline flooded his system and his heart was racing, David automatically shifted into the deep, controlled breathing pattern he'd learned in medical training. Within seconds, his heart rate slowed, his mind cleared, and he felt completely in control despite the chaos around him. Later that evening, during an intimate moment with his partner, David had what he calls his light bulb moment. What if he could use the same breathing technique to control arousal? The results were immediate and dramatic. By consciously shifting his breathing pattern, David discovered he could literally dial his arousal up or down like adjusting the volume on a stereo. This wasn't wishful thinking or placebo effect, it was pure neuroscience in action. Here's what's happening in your body. Your breathing directly controls your autonomic nervous system, the same system that governs arousal and ejaculation. When you breathe rapidly and shallowly, which is what most people do when they're highly aroused, you're essentially telling your nervous system, "This is urgent, let's finish quickly." But when you breathe slowly and deeply, you're sending the opposite message. "We're safe, we can take our time, let's enjoy this." Dr. Patricia Carney's groundbreaking research at Harvard Medical School used real-time monitoring to observe what happens when people change their breathing patterns during states of high arousal. Her findings were revolutionary. Participants could reduce their arousal level by up to 40% within just 60 seconds using specific breathing techniques. More importantly, they could do this while maintaining pleasurable sensations and connection with their partners. The key is understanding how breath connects to your heart rate variability, a fancy term for your heart's ability to adapt its rhythm to different situations. When your breathing is chaotic, your heart rate becomes chaotic, and this chaos spreads throughout your entire nervous system. But when your breathing is controlled and rhythmic, it creates what researchers call coherence, a state where your heart, mind, and nervous system work together in harmony. Let me teach you the technique that changed David's life, and you can try this right now whether you're alone or in a room full of people. It's called the 4-7-8 technique, and it's based on ancient practices that modern science has validated. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold that breath for 7 counts, then exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 counts. Do this 3 times and notice what happens to your body and mind. Did you feel that? That immediate sense of calm and control. That's your parasympathetic nervous system engaging, the same system responsible for rest and digest functions, and coincidentally, the system that allows for sustained arousal without premature climax. You just manually activated your body's built-in relaxation response. But here's where it gets really interesting for intimate situations. Dr. Bari Komisaruk's research team at Rutgers University conducted a fascinating psychology experiment where they taught men to use diaphragmatic breathing during intimate moments. Instead of breathing from their chest, participants learned to breathe deep into their belly, engaging their diaphragm, the large muscle that separates your chest from your abdomen. The results were extraordinary. Men who used diaphragmatic breathing reported a 60% improvement in their ability to control timing. But here's what's even more remarkable. Their partners also reported higher satisfaction levels. When one person's nervous system becomes calm and controlled, it literally influences their partner's physiology through unconscious mimicry and energetic connection. Think of your breath as a remote control for your arousal. Rapid, shallow breathing is like hitting the fast-forward button, while slow, deep breathing is like pressing pause. But unlike an actual remote control, this one becomes more powerful with practice. The neural pathways between your breathing patterns and your arousal response strengthen over time, giving you increasingly precise control. Here's a what-if mind hack that combines breathing with the pelvic floor training we covered earlier. As you inhale, gently engage your pelvic floor muscles. As you exhale, relax them completely. This creates a rhythm that coordinates your breath, your muscular control, and your nervous system into one integrated response. It's like conducting an orchestra where every section is perfectly synchronized. The timing of when you use these techniques matters enormously. Most people wait until they're already at high arousal levels before trying to regain control. That's like trying to stop a freight train that's already at full speed. The secret is what Dr. Eli Coleman calls proactive breath management, using these techniques early and consistently throughout intimate experiences, not just when you feel like you're approaching climax. I've seen this approach transform countless lives, but one story stands out. Michael, a software developer, told me that learning breath control didn't just improve his stamina. It completely changed his relationship with intimacy. Instead of viewing arousal as something that happened to him, he began experiencing it as something he could dance with, guide, and enhance. His partner noticed the difference immediately, describing their intimate connection as more present, more intentional, and infinitely more satisfying. The science behind this transformation is rooted in something called interoceptive awareness, your ability to sense and influence your internal bodily signals. Research shows that people with higher interoceptive awareness have better emotional regulation, less anxiety, and more satisfying intimate relationships. Breathing exercises literally strengthen this mind-body awareness, making you more sensitive to subtle changes in your arousal and more capable of influencing them. But here's the advanced technique that separates the beginners from the masters: learning to breathe consciously while maintaining full presence with your partner. It's not about detaching or mentally stepping away. It's about using your breath as an anchor that keeps you grounded in sensation while maintaining conscious control. Think of it as being the calm eye of the storm, rather than being swept away by it. What's particularly powerful about breathwork is that it creates what researchers call dual awareness. You remain fully present and engaged with pleasurable sensations, while simultaneously maintaining conscious influence over your arousal trajectory. You're not sacrificing pleasure for control or control for pleasure. You're enhancing both simultaneously. As you develop these physical and breathing techniques, you'll discover something profound. Your own personal experience of stamina transforms from something that happens to you into something you actively participate in creating. But the most rewarding dimension of enhanced stamina emerges when you share this journey with a partner, because intimacy isn't just about individual performance. It's about creating something beautiful together that neither person could experience alone. What if the key to your own stamina wasn't just about controlling your own arousal, but about expanding your focus to include your partner's experience? This might sound counterintuitive. After all, haven't we been talking about developing your personal control and techniques? But here's where the psychology gets beautifully complex. Sometimes the best way to solve your own challenge is to stop focusing on it entirely. Let me share the story of Rachel and Tom, a couple who participated in a fascinating psychology experiment at the University of Washington. Tom had been struggling with premature ejaculation for months, and despite practicing all the breathing techniques and pelvic floor exercises we've discussed, he was still caught in a cycle of anxiety and disappointment. The breakthrough came when researchers suggested something radical. Instead of focusing on his own performance, what if Tom dedicated himself entirely to understanding and enhancing Rachel's pleasure? The results were almost magical. Within 2 weeks, Tom's stamina improved dramatically, not because he was trying harder to control himself, but because his attention had shifted completely away from self-monitoring and toward genuine connection. When your mind is fully absorbed in your partner's responses, pleasure, and experience, there's simply no mental bandwidth left for performance anxiety. It's like the difference between staring at yourself in a mirror during a conversation versus being completely absorbed in what the other person is saying. Dr. Emily Nagoski's groundbreaking research reveals something crucial about this shift in focus. When partners feel psychologically safe and genuinely attended to, their arousal patterns become more communicative and responsive. Rachel reported that when Tom stopped worrying about his own performance and started paying exquisite attention to her experience, she felt more relaxed, more open, and more able to communicate what felt good. This created what researchers call a positive feedback loop. The more present and attentive Tom became, the more responsive Rachel became, which made Tom feel more confident and connected, which enhanced his natural stamina. But here's where most people get stuck. They don't know how to talk about these things without creating more pressure and anxiety. The conversation about stamina and sexual satisfaction is loaded with potential landmines. Nobody wants to make their partner feel inadequate or criticized. So let me give you a framework for these discussions that actually builds intimacy rather than creating tension. The key is what Dr. John Gottman calls soft startup, approaching sensitive topics in a way that feels collaborative rather than confrontational. Instead of saying, "I'm worried about lasting long enough," try something like, "I'm curious about exploring ways we can both feel even more connected and satisfied together. What do you think would feel amazing for you?" Notice the difference. One conversation centers the problem, while the other centers the possibility. Research from the Kinsey Institute reveals something fascinating about female arousal patterns that completely changes how we think about stamina. Dr. Meredith Small's longitudinal studies show that, for most women, psychological arousal, feeling desired, safe, and emotionally connected, is often more important than physical stimulation techniques. This means that your ability to create emotional intimacy and psychological safety can be more powerful than any physical technique you master. Here's a what-if mind hack that works like magic. Instead of asking, "Was that good for you?" which puts your partner in the position of evaluating your performance, try asking, "What did you notice that felt particularly amazing?" Or, "What would feel even better next time?" These questions invite exploration and communication rather than judgment. They also give you specific, actionable information that helps you become a more attentive and responsive partner. But the real game changer is understanding what researchers call responsive desire. Dr. Rosemary Basson's work at the University of British Columbia revealed that many people, particularly women, don't experience desire as a sudden urge that appears out of nowhere. Instead, desire emerges in response to pleasure, attention, and emotional connection. This means that your role as a partner isn't just to manage your own arousal. It's to create conditions where mutual desire can unfold naturally. The concept of mutual orgasm deserves special attention here because it's been both mythologized and misunderstood. Recent studies show that couples who experience simultaneous climax aren't necessarily more skilled or compatible. They're usually couples who have developed exceptional communication and attunement to each other's arousal patterns. The psychology behind mutual climax isn't about perfect timing. It's about being so connected to your partner's experience that your arousal patterns naturally synchronize. This connects beautifully to something called embodied empathy, your ability to sense and respond to your partner's physical and emotional states. Dr. Tanya Singer's neuroscience research shows that when partners develop this kind of deep attunement, their nervous systems literally coordinate. Heart rates synchronize, breathing patterns align, and stress hormones decrease in both individuals. It's like your bodies are having their own private conversation that enhances everything you're experiencing together. One of the most powerful communication techniques I've encountered is what I call pleasure mapping, exploring together what kinds of touch, attention, and connection feel most amazing for each partner. This isn't just about physical techniques. It includes emotional and psychological preferences too. Some people feel most desired when their partner whispers appreciative comments. Others prefer focused silence, and some love playful banter. The key is discovering your partner's unique pleasure language and speaking it fluently. Here's something that might surprise you. Couples who regularly discuss their intimate experiences report 73% higher relationship satisfaction and significantly better sexual function, according to research published in the Journal of Sex Research. But here's the catch. These conversations need to happen outside the bedroom, in relaxed, non-charged moments when nobody feels evaluated or pressured. The most transformative communication strategy involves what Dr. Sue Johnson calls emotional accessibility, being genuinely curious about your partner's inner experience rather than making assumptions about what they want or need. Instead of thinking, "I need to make this last longer so she'll be satisfied," try approaching intimacy with genuine curiosity. "I wonder what she's experiencing right now. What would help her feel even more pleasure and connection?" This shift from performance-focused to connection-focused thinking creates profound changes in your nervous system. When you're genuinely absorbed in your partner's pleasure, your own arousal becomes more manageable and sustainable. It's paradoxical but scientifically validated. The less you focus on controlling your own experience, the more natural control you actually have. Now that we've explored the psychological foundations, physical techniques, breath control, and communication strategies, the question becomes, how do you weave all these elements into a cohesive approach that works for your unique relationship? Because here's the truth, there's no one-size-fits-all solution to stamina and satisfaction. The real magic happens when you create a personalized system that honors both your individual psychology and your unique partnership dynamics. Think of developing stamina like learning to play an instrument. You need to understand the theory, the psychology we explored, practice the scales through physical exercises, feel the rhythm with breathing techniques, and eventually play in harmony with others through communication. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to master everything at once, like attempting to play Beethoven's Ninth Symphony on their first piano lesson. Let me tell you about Marcus, a 35-year-old architect who contacted me after watching this entire series. Marcus had tried implementing everything simultaneously: pelvic floor exercises, breathing techniques, mindfulness practices, and communication strategies, and he was feeling completely overwhelmed. "I'm spending more time thinking about stamina than actually enjoying intimacy," he told me. "It's like I've turned something beautiful into a complicated engineering project." Marcus's frustration perfectly illustrates why a personalized, progressive approach is crucial. Just as no two buildings require identical blueprints, no two people need identical stamina development plans. Your unique psychology, relationship dynamics, and personal challenges require a customized framework that honors your starting point and builds systematically toward your goals. The first step in creating your personal blueprint is what researchers call baseline assessment, honestly identifying your current patterns without judgment or shame. Dr. Michael Metz's longitudinal studies at the University of Minnesota revealed that men who accurately understood their personal arousal patterns were 65% more likely to achieve their stamina goals than those who made assumptions about what they should be experiencing. Here's a what-if mind hack for self-assessment. For 1 week, simply observe your responses during intimate moments without trying to change anything. Notice what thoughts arise, how your breathing changes, what physical sensations you experience, and how your arousal builds and shifts. This isn't about performance, it's about gathering data. You're becoming a curious scientist studying your own responses. Most people discover patterns they never consciously noticed. Maybe your arousal spikes dramatically when you focus on certain visual stimuli, or perhaps your breathing becomes shallow at specific arousal levels, or you might find that certain thoughts consistently trigger anxiety responses. These observations become the foundation of your personalized approach. The next step is what I call progressive integration, adding one technique at a time until it becomes natural before incorporating the next element. Start with whichever technique resonated most strongly with you. If you're naturally drawn to physical training, begin with pelvic floor exercises for 2 weeks before adding breathing techniques. If psychology fascinates you, start with mindfulness and cognitive reframing before incorporating physical elements. Dr. Anders Ericsson's research on expertise development shows that mastery occurs through what he calls deliberate practice, focused, intentional engagement with specific skills rather than random, unfocused effort. This applies perfectly to stamina development. Rather than hoping that general sexual activity will naturally improve your control, dedicate specific time to practicing your chosen techniques outside of intimate encounters. Here's where the Stamina Development Journal becomes invaluable. This isn't about creating performance pressure. It's about tracking patterns and celebrating progress. Each day, briefly note which techniques you practiced, any insights you gained, and how you felt physically and emotionally. Over time, you'll see patterns emerge that guide your continued development. The journal format is simple but powerful. Today I practice specific technique for duration. I noticed physical sensations, thoughts, or emotions. I feel overall assessment about my progress. This creates awareness without creating anxiety, and it helps you identify which approaches work best for your unique psychology and physiology. One of the most important aspects of your personal blueprint is recognizing and planning for plateaus. Every skill development journey includes periods where progress feels stagnant, and stamina improvement is no exception. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset reveals that people who expect and normalize plateaus actually break through them faster than those who interpret plateaus as failure. When you hit a plateau, and you will resist the urge to add more techniques or practice harder. Instead, step back and assess whether you're fully mastering your current approaches before moving forward. Sometimes plateaus occur because we're trying to progress too quickly rather than deepening our skill with fundamental techniques. The psychological aspect of plateau management is crucial. Your brain needs time to consolidate new neural pathways, and this consolidation often happens during periods that feel like stagnation. Think of it like muscle building. Growth occurs during rest periods, not just during active training. The same principle applies to neurological and psychological development. Setbacks are another inevitable part of the journey, and how you respond to them determines whether they become learning opportunities or sources of discouragement. Research shows that people who view setbacks as valuable information rather than personal failures recover more quickly and ultimately achieve better outcomes. Here's a practical framework for handling challenging experiences. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" ask, "What can this teach me?" Maybe you had a disappointing intimate encounter despite weeks of practice. Rather than interpreting this as evidence that the techniques don't work, investigate what factors might have influenced the experience. Were you stressed about work? Did you skip your breathing practice that day? Was there unresolved tension with your partner? The most successful people I've worked with develop what I call compassionate persistence. They're committed to their goals while being kind to themselves during the inevitable ups and downs of skill development. They celebrate small victories, like successfully using breathing techniques to manage arousal for 30 seconds longer than usual, rather than only acknowledging major breakthroughs. Your personal blueprint should also include what psychologists call environmental design, creating conditions that support your success. This might mean scheduling regular practice sessions at times when you're relaxed and focused, or having open conversations with your partner about your development journey, or creating phone-free bedroom environments that minimize distractions. Remember that integration is an ongoing process, not a destination. Even after you achieve your initial stamina goals, continuing to practice these techniques maintains and enhances your abilities. Think of it like physical fitness. You don't stop exercising once you reach your target weight, because maintaining results requires ongoing attention and care. As you implement these strategies and begin experiencing the transformation in your intimate life, you might notice something unexpected. The benefits are rippling outward, touching every aspect of your well-being and relationships. The confidence, presence, and emotional regulation you develop through stamina training don't stay confined to the bedroom. They begin influencing how you show up in work, friendships, and life challenges. What if improving your stamina was about more than just intimate performance? What if it was actually a pathway to greater confidence, reduced anxiety, and deeper connection in all areas of your life? As we reach the culmination of this journey together, I want to share something that might completely shift how you think about the work you've been doing. 3 months after implementing the techniques we've explored, James, remember him from our opening story, sent me a message that perfectly captures what I'm about to explain. "The strangest thing happened," he wrote. "I started this journey to fix a bedroom problem, but somehow I ended up fixing my entire relationship with confidence, stress, and even my career performance. It's like learning to control my arousal taught me to control everything else that used to overwhelm me." James's experience isn't unique. It's actually predictable based on what researchers call psychological transfer effects. Dr. Eli Coleman's longitudinal study at the University of Minnesota followed 300 men who completed comprehensive sexual health programs. What they discovered was remarkable. Participants didn't just improve their stamina and sexual satisfaction. Within 6 months, they showed significant improvements in general anxiety levels, workplace confidence, communication skills, and overall life satisfaction. Here's what's happening neurologically. When you develop the ability to regulate arousal, manage anxiety, and maintain presence during intense sensations, you're literally training your nervous system to handle stress and intensity in all contexts. The prefrontal cortex strengthening we discussed doesn't just apply to sexual control. It enhances your ability to stay calm during job interviews, manage difficult conversations with your boss, and remain centered during any high-pressure situation. Think about the skills you've been developing: mindfulness and present moment awareness, breath control for anxiety management, the ability to reframe stressful thoughts, and enhanced body awareness. These are the exact same capabilities that elite performers in every field work to develop. You've been doing psychological training that happens to have sexual applications, but the benefits extend far beyond the bedroom. Dr. Barry McCarthy's research at American University revealed something fascinating about the relationship between sexual confidence and general self-efficacy. Men who felt competent and in control of their sexual experiences showed measurable improvements in what psychologists call generalized self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle whatever challenges life throws at you. It's as if mastering one area of perceived vulnerability creates a ripple effect of confidence that touches everything else. But the transformation goes deeper than individual psychology. Dr. John Gottman's decades of relationship research consistently show that couples who experience mutual sexual satisfaction report higher levels of emotional intimacy, better conflict resolution skills, and significantly lower divorce rates. When you feel confident and capable in intimate moments, you bring a different energy to your relationship, more relaxed, more generous, more emotionally available. Here's a psychology experiment you can try right now. Think back to a time when you felt completely confident and in control during an intimate experience. Notice how that memory affects your posture, your breathing, your overall sense of self. That embodied confidence doesn't disappear when you leave the bedroom, it becomes part of how you move through the world. Sarah, whose partner David we met earlier in our breathing discussion, shared something profound about their relationship transformation. When David stopped being anxious about performance and started being present with me, it didn't just improve our sex life. He became more emotionally available in every aspect of our relationship. We talk more openly, we laugh more, and I feel more seen and appreciated than ever before. It's like he found a part of himself he'd been hiding. This points to something crucial. Enhanced sexual stamina isn't just about lasting longer. It's about the psychological safety and emotional intimacy that develops when both partners feel satisfied and connected. Research from the Kinsey Institute shows that couples who prioritize mutual pleasure and emotional connection during intimacy report 40% higher relationship satisfaction and are 60% more likely to describe their partnership as deeply fulfilling. The long-term implications are even more encouraging. Dr. Patricia Schreiner-Rengel's longitudinal studies following couples over 20 years reveal that relationships characterized by open communication about sexuality and mutual attention to pleasure maintain higher satisfaction levels as they navigate life changes, aging, and evolving desires. These couples develop what she calls sexual resilience, the ability to adapt and maintain connection even as circumstances change. But perhaps the most profound shift happens in how you view personal growth itself. The journey you've undertaken, honestly examining your patterns, practicing new skills, communicating more openly with your partner, and being patient with yourself during setbacks. These are the fundamental elements of psychological maturity and emotional intelligence. You've learned that change is possible, that your nervous system is more adaptable than you thought, and that vulnerability and openness actually create strength rather than weakness. These insights become a foundation for approaching any area of your life where you want to grow or improve. The breathing techniques that help you manage arousal become tools for managing work stress. The mindfulness practices that keep you present during intimacy help you be more attentive in conversations with friends and family. The communication skills that enhance sexual connection improve your ability to navigate conflicts and express needs in all relationships. This is why I want to reframe everything we've discussed. Developing sexual stamina isn't just about fixing a problem. It's an act of profound self-care and relationship investment. You're not just becoming a better sexual partner. You're becoming a more emotionally regulated, confident, and connected human being. As we conclude this journey together, I want you to remember that what you've learned represents just the beginning of a lifelong exploration. Your sexuality, like every aspect of your psychology, will continue evolving throughout your life. The techniques and insights you've gained create a foundation for navigating whatever changes and challenges lie ahead. I'm genuinely curious about your experience with these concepts and techniques. Have you tried any of the breathing exercises? What insights have emerged as you've reflected on your own patterns? How has thinking about stamina as a psychological skill rather than a fixed trait affected your confidence? Share your thoughts, questions, and experiences in the comments below. Your journey might inspire or help someone else who's on a similar path. Remember, the most fulfilling intimate connections aren't about perfection or performance. They're about presence, curiosity, and the courage to keep growing together. You have everything you need to create the kind of intimate life that nourishes both you and your partner. The only question is, what amazing discoveries await you as you continue exploring?